Allergic rhinitis, commonly known as hay fever, is inflammation in the nose triggered by allergens like dust, animal dander, or pollen. For many veterans, this seemingly sometimes mild condition goes untreated. They don't even know about it. It becomes overlooked. It's undervalued when it comes to VA disability claims. But understanding how the VA rates allergic rhinitis is very, very important. They rate it under Diagnostic Code 6522, and the ratings, depending on the severity of your rhinitis, can go from 10 to 30%, and it can significantly increase both your rating and your monthly tax-free compensation. So I'm going to break it down in this video. Allergic rhinitis is rated at either 10 or 30% by the VA under Diagnostic Code 6522. The PACT Act makes allergic rhinitis a presumptive condition. So it means you don't need medical records from active duty. If you were in a area at the right time in a PACT Act location, it could be a presumptive condition. If you're a veteran who was exposed to burn pits, meaning some of you veterans listening right now could be eligible and no longer need to prove a direct link between your condition and service if you qualified, if you served in a qualifying location and during a specific time frame. Okay, again, doesn't mean you don't need any medical records. I always advise to come in with a diagnosis no matter what within the past 12 months from your primary care doctor, outside doctor, I don't care who it is. Just bring all the evidence you can. But again, if you were in a PACT Act area location during the right time, you could get rhinitis if it's indeed an issue in your life. Rhinitis often leads to or worsens other service-connected conditions such as sinusitis, asthma, sleep apnea, migraines, GERD, chronic fatigue, etc., which could open the door to secondary service-connected claims. Winning your claim for allergic rhinitis requires solid evidence. I'm going to explain that in this video. The VA rates allergic rhinitis from either 10 or 30%, depending on the severity of symptoms and whether there are real nasal polyps. So if you're filing a claim for rhinitis, do you have polyps or not? 30% VA rating applies when nasal polyps are present. 10% VA rating applies when there are no polyps, but both nasal passages are more than 50% obstructed, or one is completely blocked, or during your exam, that would warrant a 10% rating. Again, that's when there are no polyps, but both nasal passages are more than 50% obstructed, or one is completely blocked during your CMP exam. That would warrant a 10% rating. Basically, these ratings reflect how your symptoms affect your quality of life, your sleep, your breathing. So you need to articulate that. You need to write that in your lay statement. And yes, they do carry some monetary value. Okay. How do you prove your VA claim for allergic rhinitis, right? You need a current diagnosis. That's what I just stated. You need in-service event, injury, disease, or exposure. If it's PACT Act, right area, PACT Act area and location. You need a medical nexus, link, or connection between your rhinitis and military service. What caused it? Can you prove that beyond a reasonable doubt? And then severity of symptoms. In terms of frequency, severity, and duration, you need to explain that. You need to articulate that. You don't want to minimize. So if you served in a desert environment and later developed persistent rhinitis, your claim should include service treatment records, private or VA medical records, and a nexus letter from a private healthcare provider. I would absolutely advise. Okay. If you served in areas where burn pit exposure were and now suffer from allergic rhinitis, the PACT Act may be your fast track to your VA disability benefits with no need to prove direct causation. However, again, make sure you have up-to-date treatment current if that was 10 years ago that you were in Afghanistan or Iraq or wherever you were in the Middle East or whatever PACT Act location you were in. Okay, so here's what this means and who qualifies, right? Right, the PACT Act, honoring our promise to address comprehensive toxics, recognizes allergic rhinitis as a presumptive condition, which is a win for the veteran. And so for eligible veterans exposed to burn pits and other airborne hazards during military service, you could qualify for rhinitis. What the presumption does is it eliminates the need to prove a direct service connection between your exposure and your diagnosis. The VA assumes the link is there automatically. Again, I'm going to give you a cheat code, right? Make sure that you're up to date on your treatment. Make sure that you have up-to-date diagnosis, especially if you have a lot of time, right? You don't want to claim something that you're not diagnosed for currently, neither, okay? Again, you didn't need to go while on active duty in because maybe it wasn't a problem, but if you were in that right area and location, you could prove presumption, okay? It's a presumptive condition, that's why. So who qualifies for presumptive service connection? Again, To qualify for it, under the PACT Act presumptive list, you must meet all three of the following criteria: current diagnosis, like I've been saying, qualifying location and time frame, right? You served in one of the following areas during or after the time periods listed: Southwest Asia, Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia on or after August 2nd, 1990, Afghanistan, Syria, Djibouti, or Uzbekistan on or after September 11th, 2001. Honorable discharge if you received an honorable discharge vets or other qualifying discharge from active duty military service. You could qualify again if you're in Southwest Asia or the Middle East areas I just mentioned. It matters for you, veterans, if you're listening, because if you meet this criteria, right, you no longer need to provide evidence of a time specific onset of symptoms and proof of exposure. Okay. Basically, the VA and the rater should presume you are exposed to airborne hazards such as smoke and toxins from burn pits, particulate matter, dust, sand pollution, mechanical industrial fumes, other environmental contaminants common in deployment zones. And basically, this shift greatly streamlines the claims process. And what it does is it puts the burden of proof on the VA, not you. Okay. Another powerful advantage is there's no deadline for when the allergic rhinitis diagnosis must occur, even if your symptoms develop years after service. That's an advantage to you. The presumption still applies if you meet the criteria. Again, make sure you have diagnosis. Bottom line is this: if you meet the basic criteria, the burden of proof shifts in your favor, and that makes it significantly easier to win your allergic rhinitis VA claim. Here's some cheat codes here: secondary conditions to allergic rhinitis: sinusitis, nasal polyps, allergic asthma, sleep apnea, right? Allergic conjunctivitis, right? Chronic cough and bronchitis, migraines and sinus headaches, GERD, mood and cognitive disorders, chronic fatigue and reduced stamina, right? Dermatological issues like dermatitis and eczema could be a secondary issue, and immune system dysregulation. Okay. Sometimes frequent allergen exposure and persistent infection may lead to an overactive immune response, raising risk for other atopic or autoimmune conditions. So, what should you expect at your CMP exam, right? If you filed a claim for allergic rhinitis, your CMP exam, it's going to play a huge role in determining whether your claim will be approved and how your condition will be rated. Again, 6 elements right here. Follow me. Detailed symptom interview. Make sure you don't minimize. Make sure you describe how your symptoms affect your daily life, especially sleep, concentration, work, performance, or physical activity. You need to know that. You need to document that. You need to put that in a lay statement. Review your medical records, physical examination, impact on your functional capacity, additional respiratory testing if needed, completion of your DBQ, right? Finally, the examiner will complete the DBQ for your rhinitis. This document will capture all findings from the exam and serves as a key piece of evidence for the VA RVSR, the rating veteran service representative, who will use that to decide whether to approve, deny, or defer your claim. So come prepared. Bring a copy of your medical records. Know your symptoms inside and out. Be specific about how allergic rhinitis impacts your quality of life. The more clearly you can describe the impact, the stronger your claim will be, okay? So track symptoms. Keep a daily log of congestion, sneezing, sleep issues. Medical documentation, have it. Up-to-date diagnosis, have it. Prescription and treatment evidence, have it. Presumptive service connection, have it. Nexus letter if you need it, have it. CMP exam, be ready to describe severity of symptoms and obstruction during the exam. Secondary claims, don't forget to include related conditions like sinuses or sleep apnea. Okay. So I want to give you an example of a case. Okay. Let's just say we have Bobby. He served in Afghanistan from 2003 to 2007. He spent months near burn pits and recently began dealing with basically nasal congestion, fatigue, and constant sneezing. His ENT confirmed large nasal polyps. With his diagnosis and service and time in Afghanistan from 2003 to 7, he should qualify for a 30% rating under the PACT Act. Okay. Rhinitis, it's very important, veterans, is not just some seasonal sneezing. It's very serious. It's medically recognized condition that the VA will compensate you for. And also, it's a PACT Act claim. It's a presumption. So with proper documentation, make sure you're prepared. Make sure you don't minimize. Make sure you have a lay statement. Make sure you have an up-to-date diagnosis. If you need a nexus, it's worth it. If you do need one, reach out to us. Descriptions in this video for people that can write nexus letters for this, right? That can help you and put you in the best position to win your claim. Don't give up. Keep fighting. This is another condition that may be affecting you and can absolutely help you. Thank you for your service to our country. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate you. I hope this helps you, and you have a good day.